Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at The Spill. The Spill is brought to you by Smirk and Dagger Games. It's for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and games generally run about 50 to 60 minutes. Offshore rig DeepWell number 4 has blown out and the rupture is spilling crude oil into the ocean at an alarming rate. Your response team must work together, using your individual talents to avert an ecological disaster, one which threatens to contaminate marine life and devastate the ecosystem. The situation is dire and escalating by the minute, so there is no time to waste. Your next steps: contain the oil flow from the rig, remove what oil you can from the waters, and rescue the marine animals. The Spill is a fully cooperative game featuring a 4-way dice tower, which is the oil rig, which randomly drops oil dice onto the 4 quadrants of the game board. In this respect, the game is a reverse tower defense game, as you, the players, sail the perimeter trying to push back and contain the oil, remove dice from the water, and save the sea life. The world is watching. The fate of the coast is in your hands. So your situation board is critical. It shows your current spill out levels, your rescue marine life, resource cards, removed oil, extra action pool, the weather effects, and wind conditions. So in order to win the game, you have 3 main objectives. You're going to have to save some contaminated animals, which means oil-drenched animals. You also have to remove a certain number of oil dice from the game, or meaning that they're out of the game completely. And you have to collect at least 2 rows of the different animals in order to win. So you have those 3 main objectives. And to lose, there's lots of ways to lose. So if you look out on the main board, there's a sick bay. And as animals become infested or contaminated with oil, they will move to sick bay. And if you ever have 1 of each type, meaning 6 different animals, you lose the game. If you have 3 of a single type, you lose the game. And also spills. So you get spill outs. When you drop the dice in, the dice are going to show numerical values that you put out into the different quadrants and sectors. And if a sector ever has 3 of a dice, that is a spill out. And if you have 6 spill outs, you're going to lose the game. So maybe you've dropped dice and now you have 3 threes in this certain quadrant. Well, that's a spill out, and causing you to look at your situation board, which will then move the marker in the spill out up 1 level. And depending on the difficulty level that you've chosen for the game, we'll end up having more dice that you will drop at the start of every turn. So you have to keep an eye on that, and truly you're going to be working together. All right, let's take a look at these cast of characters. So, like any good team, you have a series of different specialists with different abilities. And just to name a few here, we've got the environmental tech, the marine vet, the marine biologist, a risk engineer, and a hazmat specialist. Now, they all have very different abilities, and let's take a look at a couple here. So you've got like the vet, which can rescue a marine animal at no cost, or a contaminated animal by spending 1 of their action points instead of the normal 2. Or maybe you're going to be the risk engineer, who reduces the amount of oil dice dropped at the start of their turn by 1. So it really is advantageous to use the right characters or specialists together and strategize each of your turns and so forth. So on your turn, you can spend up to 4 action points. 1, you're going to be moving. You're going to be moving around the perimeter of the board through the different quadrants and sectors trying to save the animals. And that's going to cost you 1 action point to move from 1 sector to the next. And then you can push the oil back, meaning that you can move a dice from the board back to the main bag. But that doesn't mean it removes it from the game. It just is a temporary fix. It will also cost you 1 action point. But actually, to remove that dice from the game, which is 1 of your win conditions, you have to spend 3 action points. It's pretty expensive, but you need to do it. Or you can choose to save a marine animal that is healthy and in the sector where your ship is located, and that will cost you 1 action point. And finally, you can rescue a drenched or contaminated animal, which will cost you 2 action points. So lots of different actions that you can potentially work and strategize with your fellow players in order to win this game, save the animals, and save the coast. Now let's take a look at this oil rig. The thing is, this is the dice tower. This is where we're going to be dropping the black dice in, which represent the oil, and it spills out. It's really neat how it works. But be mindful that this is a prototype. the final is going to look so much cooler than what you're seeing here. So keep that in mind. But the functionality will be very much the same. You take the dice, drop them in, and so forth. Now, at the start of the game, you're going to be taking 8 dice, and you're dropping them in to really kind of set off the tone of the game and where the oil has started to flow out onto the board. But as the game progresses and you move to each turn, then you're going to consult the chart to see how many dice are going to be dropping each turn. But the thing is that dice drop will be varied based on what level you're on and how many spillouts that you've already encountered. And then you're going to be placing these dice. So starting with the innermost ring of the number that they correspond with in their sectors. And as they encounter animals, as the dice come across animals, if it's an uncontaminated marine animal, then you'll flip it to its contaminated side. Now, if it's already contaminated and an oil dice hits it, well, then it's moving to sick bay. And remember, too many things in sick bay is one of your lose conditions. 2 other things to keep in mind with these oil dice is spillouts and overflow. So an area that's got 3 dice is a spillout. If you reach that again, then you're going to be moving the tracker up, making it harder every turn as you get more and more dice that you're going to be dropping and so forth. And if there's already 3 dice in a sector, then the overflow is the dice will just move to the next sector, potentially contaminating more animals as you get that overflow and so forth. So those are the main things with the oil dice, but there's also weather dice. Only 4 though. These blue dice, when they show up, you'll be tracking these on your player boards. The weather effects are all at the top of the board, so you can always be mindful of what's happening in the course of the game. All kinds of different things can happen here, like reducing or preventing you from using the resource cards, preventing you from using your special abilities, reducing your movement around the board, as well as if you get a 5, it's going to make 3 more dice drop immediately, but if it's a 6, you're going to get an extra action point. And there's also a weather effect that will cause you to have to spend more action points to save animals. So lots of different things here, and those weather dice do come into play throughout the course of the game, even though there's only 4 of them. So your situation board will also show you all those weather conditions. Now, one thing we haven't talked about is at the bottom of your situation board is resource cards. Now, there's different abilities here, all kinds of things that are going to help you through the course of the game, but you're going to have to earn these activation cubes and put on those cards in order to gain those abilities. And the way you do that is for every 3 oil dice removed from the game, you get 1 activation cube. And for every set completed of each of the animal types here that you see on the situation board as well, you'll get one of those cubes. And then you can decide where to place them on the different cards. And as you use these different abilities, then they're removed and a new one comes into play. So lots of interesting things that can happen here, and really, really powerful things to help you through the course of the game. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is the fact that you have a last-ditch effort, so to say. You can spend 1 to 2 extra actions on your turn, and this is going to be something that will probably come up. You will probably need to tap into this. But what happens is you will pull dice from the bag, oil dice, and place them on your board, showing that you took that extra action, but you may have caused more oil to spill out. So the next player, when they drop dice, they have to take those extra dice and drop them as well. But it may really help you out at a crucial point in the game. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, this game has that high pressure feeling to it for sure. Things go from bad to worse to even worse. And I love that in games. That's one of the things I really enjoy. Just the fact that you collectively have to work together to solve this critical problem. Really well done. And I love how the dice spill out from this tower. It really is thematic. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.